We will now return to our regular agenda. First up is action item A3 is next, which is the public hearing on the consideration and adoption of ordinance 2025-01, local bus stops property acquisition. I'd like to turn it over to IndyGo's Chief Legal Officer, Bob Fry, who will share a brief presentation on the proposed ordinance.
Good afternoon, directors. It is recommended that the board adopt proposed ordinance number 2025-01, authorizing IndyGo to acquire certain real property interests necessary for local bus stop improvement projects undertaken in accordance with IndyGo's ADA transition plan. So by way of a little bit of background, in June of 2021, this board approved IndyGo's ADA transition plan, which provides for the improvement of local bus stops to comply with ADA guidelines. The goal of the plan is to make IndyGo's bus network accessible to all users by bringing bus stops into compliance with the ADA. There are currently 3 local bus stop packages in various stages of design and construction, where certain real property interests, both temporary for purposes of construction and permanent right-of-way, will have to be acquired by IndyGo to construct the project. In the event IndyGo is not able to reach an agreement with any individual property owner for the acquisition of a portion of their property, then it will have no choice but to resort to eminent domain to appropriate the property. Before doing so, however, this board must adopt an ordinance authorizing IndyGo to exercise the power of eminent domain. So accordingly, this ordinance was introduced at your last meeting on May 15, 2025, by Chairperson Hahn. And again, it simply allows IndyGo to use eminent domain if necessary. We do make every effort to never use eminent domain if we don't have to, and accommodate property owners as much as we can. And I think it's important to note for the record that in no instance are we acquiring an entire property. We're typically just acquiring anywhere from perhaps 1 to 8 feet strip of land by a property in order to fit in the ADA accessible bus stop. So as required by statute, this public hearing was publicly noticed in the Indianapolis Star, the Indianapolis Recorder, and the Court and Commercial Record. Any person here that's here and would like to give public comment, they can testify or give evidence for or against the proposed ordinance. And following the public hearing, the board will be asked to take a vote on the proposed ordinance. With that, I can try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Bob. Before we get started with the public hearing, there are a few ground rules that'll sound familiar. When your name is called, please come up to the microphone. Before you begin your remarks, please state your name and the city, state, and zip code of your residence. You will be given a maximum of 2 minutes to provide your comments. We kindly ask that you keep your remarks focused on the proposed fair. It's not a fair policy. Proposed ordinance. Thank you. We will now begin by calling up our first speakers. I will now turn it over to Director of Communication, Lisa Sword, who will call up our speakers. Oh, do we not? Okay. Seeing no one from the public wishing to comment, I will now close the public hearing and turn this matter over to the board for discussion. Are there any comments or questions from the board members on this topic?
I'm not sure, Bob, if you can answer this question or not.
Microphone, Mr.
There, is that better? Okay, sorry. Bob, I'm not sure if you can answer this question or not, but I note that they have we're doing this in 3 phases, or it says projects, 3 projects. So this is concurrent. So we're going to go out and try to acquire all these properties at the same time?
I believe that's correct, but I might look to Rachel Wilson to answer that. She's the project manager.
Thanks, Rachel. It's a dumb question, I know, but.
It's Rachel Wilson, project manager. So 3 different packages. 2 of them are actually in construction now. And we're trying to get those final properties so we can finish construction. And then the 3rd one is actually in design. So It's a little further behind.
Okay, so we're doing New East Side Phase 1 and Near East Side Phase 2 now?
Yes,
And then
right now.
the East Side,
Far
far
east
east side, bus
side.
side is in
In
design?
design now.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks.
And I failed to mention this, I think I did last month, but the list of properties is attached to the ordinance. There's only 13 properties so that we have not yet secured the needed right of way.
Thank you for your comments. I will now, am I closing this? I will now close the public hearing.
Yeah, the hearing's closed. Mr. Chair, it's just,
Yeah.
unless the board has any other questions or discussion, it's time to call for a motion.
Okay. I'd like to ask for a motion.
So moved.
Let me
Second.
get a second. Second. Bob, we'll need a roll call vote for this, correct?
Since the vote's adoption of an ordinance, we'll need to do a roll call vote, yes. So directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick,
Aye.
Director Fagan, Director Wilson, Director Gardner,
Aye.
the motion carries.
You. Next up is we have action item A4, consideration and approval of fair policy adoption and implementation support services by Brooke Thomas.
Thank you, Director Gardner. Good evening, everybody. Brooke Thomas, Chief Development Officer for IndyGo. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and Chief Executive Officer to amend IndyGo's contract with City Strategies LLC to ensure that IndyGo staff is adequately supported through the adoption and implementation of IndyGo's new fare policy. If approved, the contract amendment would be up to $124,950. That would bring the total contract amount to a not to exceed amount of $219,900. And the expiration date would be extended to December 31st, 2026. By way of background, I think it's been clearly established, but I just do want to iterate that it had been several years since IndyGo had even kind of reviewed its fare policy. In 2009, we know that that was the last time that we increased the base fare rate. In 2019 is when we updated the policy to introduce e-fare collection and off-board fare payment, and we held the rate constant at that time. Beginning in April of 2023 and all the way through early this year, staff conducted an internal review of the fare policy and several related policies and procedures that ultimately led to the recommendation that is under consideration now. To do that work, we enlisted the support of City Strategies to increase our staff capacity and skill set so that we could prioritize this effort and really just to have the expertise and knowledge to perform the work in a timely manner. Today, asking to amend the contract, again, by increasing the budget and extending the expiration date, just so that we can retain those skills and expertise to revisit if needed, refine if needed, some of the work that we did to put these recommendations in place. Under the fiscal impact, we expect that our budget for 2025 will carry us through next year. That's why we feel like we can extend the expiration date beyond 2026, but not have to ask for new money in 2026. With that, I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brooke. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of the fair policy adoption and implementation support services. Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Next up is action item A5, consideration and approval of an amendment to the Program Management Support Services contract presented by Mr. Matt Duffy.
Good afternoon, directors. Director of Capital Projects, Matt Duffy. I'd recommend that the Board of Directors authorize the President and Chief Executive Officer to execute an amendment to the Program Management Support Services contract with H&TB Corporation, or H&TB, for an amount not to exceed $2,265,000, which brings the new contract total not to exceed amount to $9,673,000. This also includes an extension to June 30, 2029. Since June 2020, the capital project team has been hard at work to implement the Marion County Transit Plan. As such, it was determined that we'd need additional support from outside services to implement it. So following a competitive request for proposals process, the board approved a contract with H&TB in June 2020. And in the background section, the initial contract amount and amendment dates are there for your reference. Actual costs incurred through May of 2025 total $5,732,454. So over the life of the contract, it has primarily been used for embedded subject matter experts to assist with local and federal projects, most specifically the Purple and Blue Line implementation. Those projects, Purple Line is closing out and Blue Line is expected to close out by June of 2029, which is why we're requesting the 4-year extension. As projects are completed, those services will no longer be needed. And so we will retain the services. It's requested to retain the services to avoid any gap in knowledge and the assistance that they've provided since the projects have initiated. It'll be very challenging to retrain and get people up to speed should we have to do that. So that's why we're requesting the extension. The additional dollar amount that we're requesting is anticipated to cover services through the June 2029 timeframe. We reevaluate and set the budgets annually. So we'll look back at the previous year and look forward to the upcoming year. So the projections we had, we update annually and set them on an annual basis. These are budgeted through a variety of sources, depending on the project, locally or federally funded. But sometimes it's in the capital budget and sometimes it's in the operating budget, depending on what they're working on. The DBE goal was set at 2%, and you probably notice this is significantly lower than what is usually set for locally funded or federally funded projects. The reason for this is because IndyGo did not want to set an expectation on H&TB because the primary bulk of the contract is with embedded staff. And so to ask them to have DBE participation on embedded staff was a burden that we did not want to put on them for this contract. The utilization today is 1.09%, and through commitments, it will get up to 1.9%. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Matt. I like how you anticipated some of our questions there. Are there any questions for Matt? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion for consideration and approval of the amendment to the Program Management Support Services contract.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next, we have action item A6, consideration and approval of award of shelter cleaning and maintenance contracts presented by Daniel Hendricks.
Good afternoon, directors. Director of Facilities, Dan Hendricks. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to enter into a 3-year contract with the Shuck Corporation for the cleaning, maintenance, and repair of bus stops, BRT stations, shelters, and other transit amenities for a contract total not to exceed $4,243,076. Brief background, this contract is how we keep our bus stops and everything that we use clean, safe, and in good repair. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any questions regarding this proposal? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second for approval of the IFB 25-02-534 shelter cleaning and maintenance contract.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, passing the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The motion carries. Thank you, Dan. You'll be with us for a little while, I see. Next up is action item A7 is consideration and approval of award contracts for janitorial services, again by Mr. Dan Hendricks.
Good afternoon again. Dan Hendricks, Director of Facilities. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to enter into 3-year contracts with 2 one-year options for janitorial services at the following locations. For our solutions, for $142,267 for the 1501 West Washington Street main garage. For Pristine Image, for $1,153,152 for the 2001 West Washington Street, the Carson Transit Center. For Pristine Image, $72,540 for the 6410 North College location. That is the foundation and a driver layover. And for Well Done Services, for $31,843 for the 9255 Rising Road. That is the Purple Line terminus over at Fort Harrison. The above pricing are amounts not to exceed at each location over the 5-year term of the contract. If the options are exercised, the total amount not to exceed for all these contracts, if both 1-year options are exercised, is $1,399,802. Background, this contract keeps all our facilities looking clean, safe for not only our employees, but also for any involvement we have with people coming in, contractors, meetings. This is what keeps us looking nice. Be happy to address any questions.
Just maybe touch on is it the XBE goal a little bit? And how we're looking, I saw the numbers are.
Mr. Chair, I might be able to help
Okay.
Dan on this one. We didn't, the award of these janitorial contracts has been a challenge. You might recall that you all awarded some contracts last month. After that, we've had 2 of the vendors who were awarded basically backed out. Even though they bid on it, they didn't, kind of then didn't want to work. So we've had to go to the next lowest bidder and the next lowest bidder. So it's been a bit of a scramble even to get this to you. And what we found in the meantime is some of the XBE participation, some of the subs that they've listed, their certification is expired or they're in the middle of re-certification. And so frankly, we just don't have those numbers for you today. But we will compile them as soon as we can, and we're happy to report those back to you at a later date.
Okay, thanks for that clarity, Bob. Are there any other questions regarding this proposal?
Dan, if you could perhaps just go back through the proposed awards and the amounts. I may have been not looking at the list properly. Just want to make certain that I'm looking at the same list that you're looking at.
For R Plus Solutions, $142,267 for West Washington Street. For Pristine Image, $1,153,152 for 2001 West Washington, the Carson Transit Center. For Pristine Image, $72,540 for the 6410 North College Avenue. And for Well Done Services, $31,843 for the 9255 Rising Road.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hearing no other questions, I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of IFB 25-01-536 janitorial services. Excellent, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thanks, Dan. Next up, we have action item A8, consideration and approval of awards of contracts for waste removal and recycling. Again, our friend Dan Hendricks.
Director of Facilities, Dan Hendricks. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to enter into a 3-year contract with GHW Waste Services for an amount not to exceed $48,000 per year for a contract total not to exceed $144,000. The contract gives IPTC the option to exercise 2 one-year extensions for a total amount of not to exceed $97,200. If both one-year extensions are exercised, the total amount not to exceed would be $241,200. A little background, this is what removes all our waste that we generate. It also expands our recycling program for the East Campus. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Dan. Are there any questions regarding this proposal?
Yeah, Bob, maybe you can answer this one. I'm a little confused. In the discussion, it says that there was an invitation for bids, but no responsive bids were received. The public procurement laws allow in such an instance for the utilization of a special procurement. Can you help me understand what that is?
Sure. So in state procurement laws, there's various special purchasing methods that are outside the typical bid or a request for proposal process. And one of those provisions says if you put out a bid and you just don't get any bids, well, then you can go out and just seek some quotes. And so that's the special procurement.
Oh,
We
okay.
tried a bid, it didn't work, so we just solicited some quotes. And I'm not even sure, Dan, you might be able to answer this. I don't even think anybody else responded, but GHW.
No, just GHW did.
So that was the only quote that you got back?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, all right, good, thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions for Dan regarding this proposal? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and second for consideration and approval of the special purchasing contract for waste removal and recycling.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The measure passes unanimously. Next up, with our good friend Dan. Action item A9, consideration and approval of extend parts washers and paint supplies contract presented by Dan Hendricks.
Director of Facilities, Dan Hendricks. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to amend the contract with Safety Clean Systems Incorporated for the cleaning and maintenance of parts washers and paint supplies to increase the contract amount by $145,000 for a new contract total amount not to exceed $232,600. Little background, the garage relies on these parts washers in the maintenance of buses and engines and the supplies to paint our buses to keep them looking nice. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any questions regarding this proposal? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second for approval to extend RFP 23-02-472 parts washers and paint supplies contract. Can I get a motion in a second? Thank you.
Second.
Excellent. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The motion carries.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you, Dan. Take your break. Next up, we have action item A10, consideration and approval of extension of government consulting contract with Cardinal Infrastructure LLC, presented by Jennifer Pierce.
Good evening, Jennifer Pierce, President and CEO. Cam Radford, our Chief Government Affairs Officer, is on a well-deserved vacation, so I am doing this one on his behalf. He and I work very closely with this consultant. We are recommending that the Board of Directors authorize President and CEO to enter into an amendment to the agreement with Cardinal Infrastructure, Government Consulting and Advisory Services related to the Federal Transit Administration, and extending that term of the agreement for 8 months at a cost of $96,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $204,000. As a bit of background, we entered into a contract with Cardinal last year with board approval in August 2024. At that time, we wanted to use their services to get us through the execution of the Blue Line contract. So it was a 9-month term to advise us in relations with the Federal Transit Administration. They were a tremendous help getting us to execution of that in January. With the new administration taking office soon after that, Cardinal has provided valuable guidance to us on various issues related to policies and procedures that are being prioritized by federal officials. They are uniquely situated by virtue of also of their very vast and deep transit experience to provide us with some ongoing consultation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions regarding this proposal?
No questions, but I just wanted to make a comment for my colleagues. At Jennifer's request, I went out to Washington in October to participate in some meetings on the Hill with the Cardinal folks. And I must tell you, I found them to be incredibly professional. Everything was laid out in just ruthless military fashion. I mean,
We know that speaks to your heart, my friend.
Enthusiastically support this contract extension.
Thanks, Rick. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second for consideration and approval of extension of government consulting contract with Cardinal Infrastructure LLC.
So moved.
Excellent. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have action item A11, consideration and approval of contract to upgrade electronic fare collection systems, presented by Mr. Marcus Burnside.
Yes, thank you, Director Gardner. Marcus Burnside, Chief Information Officer for IndyGo. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to enter into a contract with Masabi LLC for upgrade of our electronic fare collection system for 3 years, an amount not to exceed $2,165,000. A little bit of background, and I'm gonna keep it brief. In March 2018, IPTC released a solicitation to deploy a new electronic fare collection system as part of its Marion County Transit Plan. The goal of the solicitation was to modernize the system and provide more accessible, convenient, and streamlined services to our passengers. June of 2018, IPTC board meeting approved Floberg Group. They were awarded a 5-year contract with 2 optional years to provide IPTC's electronic fare system, including fare validation devices, ticket vending machines, physical and electronic fare media, fare inspection devices, and an online customer portal. Expected to exercise their 2 optional years of the original contract in 2023. For the discussion part, again, keeping it brief, the current contract with Floberg Group expires December 31st, 2025. At the December 2024 IPTC Board of Directors meeting, IPTC was approved as a member of NeoRide, a regional council of governments, which provide coordinated cooperative actions among its members. IPTC has elected to leverage NeoRide's master service agreement with Wasabi to replace the electronic fare collection system, specifically the software platform, onboard and offboard fare validators, fare inspection devices, the mobile app with enhanced mobile application features, including trip planning, a versatile partnership portal, the ability to offer fare incentive programs, a way for third-party entities to purchase and distribute fare value, electronic fare tickets, credit debit card tap to pay capabilities, and a retail point of sale network. The only component that IPTC will retain from Fluberg is its TVMs. Under the physical impact, the funding for this project will come from the capital budget. The cost of the electronic collection fare system upgrade will not exceed $2,165,000, which includes 10% contingency funding. The annual operating cost for this project is estimated and it's listed in action item for years 2026, 2027, 2028, and the contract is up for renewal in March of 2029. The annual cost includes licensing fees, reward program license fees, maintenance and support fees. The operating cost may increase as MyKey usage increases, since the transaction revenue share estimate is based on MyKey usage and percentage-based fees, payment processing fees for credit card sales. Also, operating costs may increase if IPTC chooses to launch a retail network that allows customers to reload MyKey card media at selected retail locations like CVS and Walgreens. The retail network cost is based on a percentage of the retail network sales channel costs. For XPE declaration, Wasabi has committed to using Quality Mobile Installations LLC for 3% WBE participation. They're located out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Today, we have with us, he was gracious to come, Brandon Leonard. He's the Vice President of Strategic Accounts with Wasabi. He was strategic for us getting to this point, answering all our questions with the master service agreement, staging all of the workshops, providing a demonstration that was for internal and for the internal stakeholders and for the board members. And we appreciate his assistance through this with this procurement. With that, I'll include him. If you have any questions about this action item, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate you also highlighting in here the other kind of what ifs that could increase costs and
Right.
making sure that those are very clear for us. I guess my one question is, how long will it take for us to implement this?
Okay. So there's a lot of things that are, well, the main thing with, once we get the contract signed, so that's the first.
I like how you put the pressure back on us.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Get the contract signed. And then what we'll do from that point is order the equipment. And that's where that's a long part of it, because there's a supply and demand, and the supply chains estimated between 3 to 6 months to get equipment. And then there's probably, depending on if it's a bus installation versus a station installation, it could take anywhere from 2 weeks to, I don't know, 2 months or less. We're hoping for less. But we're talking realistically July 1st of 2026. If we can get it there sooner, we will let you guys know.
Thanks for that.
Okay.
Are there other questions or comments for
Yeah, Mr.
Marcus?
Chairman, I've got two, if you don't mind. I'm a little unclear. So in the fiscal impact,
Mhm.
we got a not to exceed number, which includes a 10% contingency funding. And then you estimate annual costs. Is that over and above the not to exceed 2 million number? Or is that included with it?
It's included with it.
It's included, okay. And then I guess my second question is, everybody knows how I feel about the current fare system.
Right.
I mean, have we got a plan So that when we test this thing and we know we know when that switch flips to revenue service, that this thing's gonna work.
Yes, I mean, we're working with Masabi the whole time, and that was one of the major questions that we asked them. Are there going to be any integration issues with the Flowbird TVMs? And they assured us that there won't.
Okay. I mean, I remember when I first was appointed to this board, and, nobody bothered to tell me that we couldn't collect fares because the system didn't work.
Right. That was
And I want to avoid that if I can this time.
So just to give us some more clarity on that background, in 2019, when we launched Red Line, the one thing that didn't work was the TVMs. They came with the euro bill dispenser versus the dollar one. So we couldn't do anything on the Red Line as far as collecting or doing type of fares. And then COVID hit. So it's just a cascading effect of things not being able either not working or being able to triage.
Okay. All right, good. Thanks, Mark.
Marcus, one more question in regards to the fiscal impact. So understanding that operating cost may increase based on the circumstances that you listed, are any of those, I guess, can you talk just a little bit more in regards to the annual estimated operating cost and the anticipation of cost increasing? Is that embedded in there, or we should just expect these additional costs?
So right now, we're just asking for amounts that are known.
Okay.
So the variable cost, which is based off of usage or ridership or just of the MyKey system, obviously we don't know what that number is. We can give you an estimate, but if we give you an estimate, we would either be below or above that. So we just basically included in the action item amounts that are known at this time. And so that's why we clearly stated that those may be costs that may increase once we implement the system itself.
Thank you.
Mark, just want to follow up on Stephanie's question. So if the cost goes up, if more people are using the MyKey, which would suggest that either A, they're moving away from cash, or B, we've got more people riding.
Right.
So we would assume there would be some revenue impact?
Right. So three things. One, people are using more equitable fares, which is MyKey. Two, there may be increase in front ridership. And three, there may be more people paying. So those are three things that may impact the cost. Right.
Got it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your question, Stephanie, too. Appreciate it.
Great questions. Any other questions? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion and a second for approval of electronic fare validator replacement. Thanks for that motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you very much.
Next up, action item A12 is consideration and approval of IPTC yearly 2025 insurance renewal by Mr. Brian Clem.
Thank you, Darius. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Clem, Director for Risk and Safety for IndyGo. It is my recommendation to the Board of Directors to authorize the President and CEO to bind insurance coverages for IPTC for the term of 1 year from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 for an amount not to exceed $1,458,499. We'll start with background. IPTC procures insurance every year
Brian,
with AON.
before you get too far, you said 1,458,498?
I did, sir.
My board packet says 1,473,874.
Within the last 3 hours, I put pressure on our underwriters, and that price came down by $15,000 for retained limits.
Okay.
And I am
Good for
still
you,
working.
Brian.
I
All
am
right.
still working on those numbers.
Way to slap me around, buddy. Good job.
All right. And I knew that that was coming. Sorry, changed within the last 3 hours. A little bit of background, IPTC insures coverage through a broker through Aon every year. In 2025, we moved from a calendar year renewal to a mid-year renewal. And that better is to align with the agency's fiscal budget year. It promotes competition. We look at decreasing administrative challenges that we have. And according to that time, the board approved a 6-month extension for insurance, and that went through June 30th of 2025. So we moved from that end of year, calendar year to now a mid-year for some efficiency that we see in the agency. A little bit of discussion. The best financial option quoted was a replacement cost value, which was interesting. We had once talked about looking at actual cash value, the differences, but the best cost advantage for IPTC and the agency was the full replacement cost. Lines of employment practices, directors and officers, crime, fiduciary, and cyber insurance coverage actually returned at a very flat rate from what we had seen in the past at 0.998%, which was a slight increase. Property coverages remained steady at a 23 cents on the dollar change, which technically was a 0.68% minus 0.68% change from what we saw in the last 6-month renewal that we had. However, total premium increase in property coverages due to a few factors. The increase was 13.15% over the previous year, mainly due to the increase in the quantity of vehicles we have, the revenue service vehicles. The age of our fleet changed with the Purple Line buses and the new orders that we have. So our total value that we have for the agency of what we're looking to cover increased 17.83%, mainly due to that fleet. Including your agenda package is a chart showing each line of coverage that corresponds to a year-over-year percentage change and the premium cost and total dollar amount for the 2025 and 2026 renewal.
Sorry, Brian, if I may, the chart that Brian just referenced is actually not in your packet, but it is laying there with your packet. It looks like this. So, fiscal impact, the cost of insurance is funded through our operational budget and DBE declaration with insurance premiums are paid through local funds. So we do ask and request for an XBE goal at 15%, MBE at 8, WBE at 3, VBE at 1, and a DOBE. However, there is no participation for an XBE because there is no subcontracting opportunities in the market with solely using an underwriter. That concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Are there any questions or comments?
Maybe. Hang on just a second. Brian, I know you've answered this question before, but I can't remember what the answer is. But we don't get TRIA coverage, right? We opt out of that.
It is offered, and what TRIA is terrorist insurance coverage.
Yeah, terror risk insurance.
Within that was offered for entities that may be struggling to even purchase it. So that was a government option that started roughly about 20 years ago. And to date, there was no claim that ever met the TRIA threshold to even cash in on that option.
I thought that.
So we optioned out of that.
Yeah, I
Why
remember
pay that extra? Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Yep, I remember now. Thank you very much.
Good memory, Rick.
My diminishing mental capacity is directly related to my next birthday.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I do notice that your script doesn't really have a place, but we'll need a
gotcha.
motion. Yeah.
Yep, I picked up on that. Thank you, Bob. Hearing no other questions regarding this action item, I'll ask for a motion and a second for approval of IPTC yearly 2025 insurance renewal. Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. This brings us to agenda item number 5, or agenda item number 5, information items. We have item I1, which is our finance report presented by Mr. Bart Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bart Brown, CFO. This is the May 2025 financial summary. On the revenue, our federal assistance revenue came in over budget for the month, $356,805. And we are over budget for the year, $1,359,969. Our operating revenue is under budget by just $133. For the month, it is under budget by for the year, $348,175. Passenger service revenue is under budget, $29,898 for the month, and for the year, we're under budget, $295,512. PMTF, property tax, and local income tax all came in on budget. And then the service reimbursement program was over budget by $5,121, and for the year is over budget by $11,366. The total revenue for the month was over budget by $198,066, and total revenue for the year is over budget $727,375. Under expenditures, personnel services, fringe benefits are under budget for the month at $238,554, and under budget for the year, $1,892,097. Overtime expenditures were over budget by $196,957 for the month, and for the year, over budget $750,643. And then May salary expenditures were over budget for the month, $271,770. That was because there were 5 pay periods for our weekly paid employees in May. Usually there's only 4. So year to date, we're under budget $2,062,327. So for all personnel services for the month, over budget $230,173. For the year, we're under budget $3,203,781. Other services and charges claims were under budget by $428,476. And that was due to a refund from Liberty Insurance for $360,851 related to the bus that was set on fire. And for the year, the category is under budget, $1,203,587. For miscellaneous expense, under budget by $27,471, and under budget for the year, $206,259. Purchase transportation category is under budget, $203,292, and for the year, it is over budget by $15,630. Service expense category under budget by $754,740, and under budget $9.6 million for the year. And again, most of that was a carryover from 2024. Utility expenditures were under budget by $71,184. That was due to a one-time refund of $79,000 from AES for an overcharge. And then for the year, we're over budget by $58,257. Their service and charges category is under budget $1,485,163, and for the year under budget by $10,955,000. Finally, materials and supplies, the fuel and lubricant category is under budget by $70,864. Under budget for the year, $769,862. For the month of May, maintenance materials category over budget $13,065, under budget for the year $42,354. Other materials and supplies category under budget for the month $88,927, for the year under budget $511,338. And tires and tubes were under budget for May $18,884, and then for the year we're under budget $188,986, and then for the month total materials and supplies was under budget, $165,610. For the year, it is under budget by $1,512,540. And for May, all total expenditures came in under budget, $1,420,559. And for the year, under budget 15,672,129. There were no non-budget requests last month. And just as an announcement, next month in July, our budget director, Justin Burkope, will be presenting the 2026 recommended budget. We will meet with Finance Chair Wilson before that. And of course, we'll get our CEO write-off. But I can tell you as a preview, it actually is looking like the budget is going to increase at a slower rate than it has in the last couple of years. So just want to congratulate the entire team of putting that together and bring you some good numbers next month. Mr. Chair, that concludes the report. Happy to answer any question the board may have.
Mr. Chairman, I think Bart's being modest. He and his team managed to substantially slow the rate of growth. And I think that once the final numbers are in, we'll be pleasantly surprised by the work that they've been able to accomplish.
Thanks for that. Thanks for your report, Bart. You make tires and tubes coming under budget sound really, really good. Appreciate that. Are there any questions for Bart regarding his report? There are none. Report's accepted. I guess I'll end by saying a sincere thanks again to all those who participated in the public hearing section of the meeting. Your feedback is really important and is critical to us as we continue to seek feedback on the fare proposal. I would also like to thank all those who participated and represented IndyGo in the Pride Parade over the weekend. I felt like we were well represented, even though I didn't get a chance to walk. I was with my grandmother. I did wave at you, but I thought that was it was great representation of the organization. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.